Sunday, June 11th, 2022. I'm in this particular Union Jack. This is what the globe looks like, so they tell me, not that I have real life experience. And so Lewis and I had gone away, and when we came back, he wound up ordering, which I did not know, some form of hearing aid. And this morning, he came up to the house and he said, "Everything is so clear," he said, "and so loud." Even when my mother and I spoke, he almost jumped. He said that he could hear the floors creaking for the first time. And I said to him, "Lewis," I said, "that's so interesting that you should finally acknowledge that." I said, "Because I've been saying for a while now, since I've been back, about my bones cracking, which is one set of sounds that I can hear and physically feel." I was like, "But then there's the solid structure of the house that cracks, meaning the wood floors, they creak, and the walls at times creak in whatever's going on in this area." He says, "No," he says, "well, you have much better hearing than I did." He said, "I hadn't heard it before." He says, "But now with these, everything is so much louder than it was before." Which is very interesting. It then brought me to another thought of while we were in Washington, D.C., the parking garage that we were in, as we were walking from the National American History Museum back to the car, which apparently I didn't know, the parking garage has President Reagan's name on it. Didn't know that. And then it had, until I was there, and then it had international trade. I'm like, what is that all about? But I could very really see all the non-familial members employed in the building in uniforms of some sort, more of like a security. And then as we passed through metal detectors and things and walked towards the car, we walked down this corridor, and I said to both my 9th decade aunt or relative that reads mostly, doesn't watch as many films as, say, Linda does, and then my 7th decade father, who I know very little about. We're walking down this corridor, and I'm like, this, I feel like we're on a movie set, and like there's an action movie about to begin, except in our actual move through the real world, I can picture the surreal movie set of me seeing some paradox of, like, say, a Jason Bourne level movie, or I don't even know any of the other ones, where you're in this parking garage. I just watched one too. I made mention of it, and now it completely eludes me. Oh, in that Independence Day film, I think, maybe. The Men in Black one? I don't know. So I'm walking down this corridor with 90 years in the making, which is 9 decades, and a 7-decade witness to North America and the volatility and whatever. And then, as we passed through metal detectors and things and walked towards the car, which apparently I didn't know, the parking garage has volatility and whatever. and my being in my fourth decade and still having skin in the game of next gens to always think of, I'm walking down this corridor with these two, and I'm like, this is very ominous. I was like, this is like, I want to say, like, I should be more excited about walking on set that I've seen in the movies, but I'm like, I don't really know how to interpret this. I mean, I feel safe in the moment. I don't feel threatened, but I was like, it's so different. I mean, so real, but so different. Um, and we walked through, but again, in that hearing, one had never seen a movie with this type of set, or so she said. Lewis didn't have anything that came to mind, but could see. And then we were searching for the car, which I think was another movie I never saw, which was some independent like film with the parking garage being so grand. And how do you find your one car with a sea of cars? But then it comes back to today, where Lou can actually now hear the subtle differences in the same residence, that we have some shared space at different capacities. Because when I say the floors are creaking, and my, like, kinesthetics in between of it are being affected, and my thought of the energy system for which isn't visibly pronounced, but auditorily I could pick up on signs and clues of the deteriorating inside residential effects, showing signs of trouble, but he, at first, not being able to hear them and not taking my word for it, taking me completely for granted, and then trying to push upon me as though I was some form of mentally deficient in my ability to see the unforeseen and to fathom and wallow in the painful effects of what I'm currently actually experiencing, not in some hypothetical, theoretical, in some irrational set of circumstances with some rationale excuse department that turns its back upon me at times. But to actually be there in that moment with him and have him hear it, it really didn't change the circumstances. It's more sitting there going, yeah, I told you so. I'm still being hurt every day, and now we gotta try to get through this like as if we're best of buds. In some respectful manner. So, on the one hand, it was joyous and glorious that he finally heard it, in the sense of in someone's mind he matters more. So I would cry if those emotions were available to me, but they're not at the moment. But for my own journal and journey, his hearing had deteriorated so bad. But also, it's like speaking to a composition melodic composer who knows how to write sheet music and then bring to life, like in a Walt Disney movie, like the old ones where like it was just no words and the music brought you through this emotional roller coaster of just different instruments and how they come together, and they're so tight in their uniform, and then they peter out, and then one becomes more pronounced than the next. I mean, and this wonderful symphony, for lack of a better term, in an uneducated form of a way. Like if I was speaking to an actual composer or somebody at that level, like a Beethoven, or these are the names that they've given me here: Beethoven, something with Ludwig, and a Mozart. Those are the three that I've heard of. Those are those stock public names that are like family brand. I don't know who they really belong to, but they're just sounds in the system in North America under this Union Jack that are acceptable without starting family fights. So if I spoke to one of those, that type of person who does that in profession, who has much better verse than myself, they would understand that the different sound between a cello and a violin. Whereas somebody who's never heard a cello or violin can't tell the difference between. Well, it's the same thing with Lou walking through the house. He doesn't have that ability. He picks up human sound. That's what he tunes into as he goes around. His tuning fork is tuned into human sound. I have a tuning fork that tunes into something totally different, which is background noise. There's a transitional field, and then the human noise when they make hot air come out of their vocal cords and some vibration happens. There's like a whole list of sounds that go on in my consciousness. Which again, I don't know if that's a normal human function, but I'm in like some survival state of some sort, and it's just like, so that's where we're at today. At 7 decade, finally heard the cracking in the floor and the physicality of this dimension losing its solid state through some manipulation of time and space. I don't know which part. Energy fields involved, obviously. And it's something that I've been reporting. I've been able to pronounce only because I'm Gen X, while he's baby boomers. We're in the same space. And I don't want to see him harmed. I don't want to be harmed. But even trying to, with his lack of awareness or ability to report the same, and I don't know who's asking, or recording, or looking for such info in order to help out a greater cause or a greater good as some contributory manner, so we don't get caught in this turning our backs on one another. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.